Hey folks, welcome to the Kira Banks Show and week 47 of a year of self-love journal book club. This week's affirmation is, I release the need to be liked by everyone. I'm enough and I am pleasing to myself. So this week really pushed us to think about, do we engage in people pleasing? Are we doing things because they make ourselves happy or other people happy? And I have to be honest, this is one where I've struggled with finding that balance. Partly, I think being socialized as a woman in this world where we're socialized to put other people's needs first, and we want everyone else to be happy and to be the source of that happiness. And so there's, I think, some people pleasing that gets baked into being a woman. But also, if I'm honest, for me, I think some of it also comes from being a woman who asserts herself a lot. Like when I was young, I was considered bossy. I mean, maybe I still am, but now have credentials to be the boss. And there was this part of me that didn't want to be called bossy. I wanted people to like me, and I wanted people to not feel bulldozed by me. And as I've gotten older, I've had to figure out that balance. This person's calling me bossy just because they don't know how to deal with a woman who is assertive. And in this situation, I very well might be bulldozing and taking up too much space and taking control in ways that I shouldn't. And so I say that to share that this week is asking us to release that need to be liked by people and figure out what is pleasing to ourselves, and to figure out, are we doing things to please others, or are we not doing some things to please others? How are we moving in ways that are motivated from what we want versus what we think other people want, or what maybe we know what other people want, but what we want for ourselves. And so this question about thinking about what you're doing and what's the motive is important. So as you move throughout the week, think about this activity I'm engaging in, or this thing that I said yes to. Is it something that I really want to do? And you might have heard some people say, I think it was Shonda Rhimes did a whole series around your no is a complete sentence. And unless it's a hell yes, unless it's oh my gosh, yes, I'm doing this, that it can be a no. And some of that is about the tendency for us to say yes to please others, to make others happy, whether we explicitly say that or not. And so to be curious with yourself about, where is it coming from that I'm doing this thing? Is it to people please? And to see what it feels like literally in your body to do something because you want to versus because you are trying to please others. And I have done this as my kids get older and they need me less. There are times when I will do things, and if they're coming home from school and I want to make dinner, right? You could say, oh, you're doing that to please the kids in your house or your husband. And it could be coming from that, I'm doing this to make other people happy obligation. But I've actually realized that sometimes for me, it really is coming from that's a way to love on them. They don't need me to literally feed them anymore, or to caretake in ways that they used to, but I can make sure that they have food. And that to me is something that pleases me and not just pleases them. It pleases them by a byproduct. And I've actually gotten in touch with what it feels in my body to really want to do something that's pleasing to me. And then there are nights when I'm just I'm not cooking. Y'all can figure it out. There's food in the fridge, there's leftovers, there's things that you can heat up or make for yourself. And I have been able to differentiate. And I share that because that's the same behavior, cooking, dinner, and it can come from a place of this is pleasing to me and I want to do this for the people I love, versus this is not pleasing to me. I'm tired. This is an obligation. And they really can do for themselves. And so as you move through the week, ask yourself, am I doing this to please myself or others? And then how does it feel when I make that choice? Sometimes you can feel it in your body when you're doing it for other people, and it feels a lot like resentment. And if this is something that is new to you, this idea of not people pleasing, it might actually feel selfish. And in reality, it's not. And so this is for those people who have a tendency to people please. Choosing yourself and like being in touch with what pleases you is not selfish, does not equal being selfish. It actually allows you to fill your cup with what is pleasing to you so that you can then engage in behavior. Like people often say you can't pour from an empty cup, right? You got to pour from a cup that's full. Like, so how do you fill yourself so that you can give to others? That's not selfish. That's just basic caring, loving for yourself, loving yourself, caring for yourself. And then one of the things that this week asked us to do is, what would you do? Think about what you would change if you didn't care what anybody thought. Like, what would it be that you would do if you didn't fear any judgment from anyone else? And I want you to think about, like, is it an activity? Is it a direction in your life? Like, what would you do if you had no concerns about if this would please someone, but it was truly what you wanted to do? And identify that. That in and of itself might be work. But once you've identified that, to figure out like what it would look like to take some steps towards that. And then circle back to that piece of like, what does this feel like? If I choose myself, I've identified this thing that I would do if no one else were watching and judging, what does it feel like to move towards that? And that could actually end up feeding you moving towards it more, because it might be scary. Like, we can do things and be scared, but I bet you it also might be exhilarating and really exciting. So think about that, what you would choose, what you would change. And then one of the other activities that I think is worth considering this week is taking the quiz about how much of a people pleaser you are. And sometimes these quizzes, whether they're in magazines or things or books, and you're like, oh, what are these quizzes? Each question will have you reflect on your behavior and your tendency to people please. And then it'll give you a sense of where you are. And I'll share with you, I was in that middle number for that middle range, and it basically suggests I have some work to do. So I'm not like people pleasing to the max, but I also am not cured of it completely. And that's something I know. And so you probably know in your gut where you are even before the quiz, maybe even take a guess and see where you are. But spend some time reflecting on those questions. It's worth doing. And the last thing I want you to think about this week, this goes along with the vision of like what you would do and what you would change if no one cared and you could do anything without judgment, is think about what intention you want to set for yourself. It could be in a day, it could be in an afternoon, it could be for the week. What intention do you want to set for yourself? And then think about how you make that happen for yourself, right? So for me, I was in that middle section for that quiz, and that basically says that some of my sense of self is dependent on other people in my life. And in some ways that's beautiful, and in some ways, no, it's not. Like, I need to be able to have things happen for me and then be able to show up in relationship with other people, not have it be dependent on them. And so whatever that intention is, if it's joy, if it's adventure, if it's whatever it is, creativity, how can you cultivate that for yourself and not have whether that shows up in your life be dependent on other people or how other people react to you? So I hope those exercises and some of my sharing has helped you think about how you can realize that you are enough and enjoy and even get in touch with what is pleasing to you so that you can figure out how to bring that to yourself rather than depend on other people. So feel free to share with me across all socials. I'm Dr. Kira Banks, and I'll see you next time on The Kira Banks Show.
Have tea to spill or something you want to ask Dr. Banks? Contact her at kirabanks.com/stories or stories@raisingequity.org. Thanks for listening.